Well, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another MSP Tech Talk series. Harry Brailsford here from SMB Nation. I am coming to you live from the CompTIA ChannelCon conference. I'm out on the trade show floor, so you're going to hear some good old-fashioned trade show background noise, which is always kind of cool. I'm in Washington, D.C., and everybody who's underwriting our show today, the sponsors that make it possible, including Intermedia, Cynics, and SolarWinds, they're all here as well. So it's just a love fest, and we're having a pretty good time. If I had to guess, probably north of 1,000 attendees, filling a Marriott hotel up by the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. So as always, be sure to use the questions feature to ask your questions of Lisa, who we're going to let her introduce. No one can introduce Lisa better than Lisa, so we'll get to that in a moment. If you are in the Washington, D.C. area, tap Jenny up on chat if you'd like to come to this show. I can certainly get you some free tickets. I'm here as both media and a sponsor. So for some reason you're in the area and you'd like to drop down, great party tonight at there in Space Museum. Tap Jenny over in the chat window and let us know, and we'll get you in. Upcoming shows will include SolarWinds in September. I'm hoping to do Ignite. I'm confirmed for in Austin with Spiceworks in mid-October, and more announcements to come. So Lisa, Lisa Hendrickson, go ahead and introduce yourself. Then we're going to have a quick chat with Intermedia.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa here from Call That Girl. Some of you might know me from the online forums. I'm an Outlook expert, Office 365 consultant. I have written plenty of books and done videos, courses, PowerPoints. I try to be helpful to techs as best I can to help them learn Outlook and Office from my point of view, and many of them follow me online, and I'm really appreciative. And today's PowerPoint is something not I'm usually used to teaching or talking about, so it's fresh for me today, Harry. Something new.
All right, well, that's cool. Well, hey, Lisa, I'm going to try something that we discovered a couple of weeks ago in the MSP Tech Talk series, and let me know how this works. I'm going to share my webcam, and it should place me right above your screen. We started doing this. There I am, and I'm in the good old-fashioned SMB Nation. So I'm gonna go on video today, Lisa, for a real good time, although it's calling me Jenny Hallmark. I'll fix that, and then we'll bring in Randy from Intermedia. Now, how can there be two Jennifer Hallmarks in the world? There's really only one Jenny, as they say. All right, let me fix that. And now I'm Harry Brailsford. So, Lisa, just to confirm, you can see myself on video in my booth?
I can see you, yes, sir.
Okay, great. So we want to bring in Randy from Intermedia. And Randy, lo and behold, the Intermedia booth is just probably about 8 booths down from me over by the front door. How about that?
Is that right? Well, I was going to say, we also have a booth at good old ChannelCon, so I'm glad that we're neighbors, Harry. We're in good company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to pop down and talk to oh boy, I saw Amy Hirsch, I saw Eric, I think there's one or two other people. The busyness of a trade show, I literally haven't had a chance to pop down. But Randy, let's talk about Intermedia for those that don't know who Intermedia is, if you don't mind me starting with that, and then maybe we can talk about your Unite program if you'd like to go there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having us on today. We, Intermedia and myself, we're very excited to be here. Always love being on your Tech Talks. I am the channel program manager here at Intermedia, so I'm responsible for, just a little bit about me, I'm responsible for really building out and optimizing, the offerings and programs to our partner, ecosystem, making our partners, first and foremost profitable. We take a lot of pride in the simplicity of doing business with us, as well as the reliability of not only our products and platforms, but also, our sales and marketing support. Intermedia in itself, we are an integrated business cloud application provider. And in March, we launched a brand new unified communications platform solution called Intermedia Unite. And it has made quite the splash in the market, and we're really excited for the future roadmap and all the features that we're adding fast and furiously, and keeping up with all of the demand and excitement from our partners. So it's been a really interesting, exciting ride the last 6 months, and we're again really happy to be on here to talk to your folks and your audience about Unite and how the unified communications space is just booming.
Yeah, it's real interesting, Lenny. So a couple of things is I talked to people here at CompTIA, and quite frankly, over the last month or two, I'm always amazed at how many people A, know Intermedia, and B, are already Intermedia partners. So my compliments that you've made fairly significant inroads into the SMB MSP community. Is that the feeling over on your side? I mean, I know there's always more partners to go grab and get them involved, but take a bow. You guys have significant recognition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, and thank you. We'll take the compliment for sure. We have a really large partner ecosystem. Like I said, about 6,500 active partners. Our goal every year, and part of what I'm responsible for, is to recruit new partners. Obviously, that's a big motion of our revenue targets, but another side of it that we don't want to forget is our existing base, right? We want to show the love to the partners we have, and so building out partner programs and continuing to evolve our partner models is something that I think we're very cognizant of, and we keep top of mind. And I think it doesn't go unnoticed with our partners. They appreciate that, and profitability obviously number one, but also just having the support and access to our executives and access to our roadmap is something that we get a lot of kudos on, and so we continue to put that kind of at the helm of our partner program offerings.
Well, and what I would say, just I've only seen Amy and Eric from afar in the lobby and in a couple of other places, and haven't caught up with them. But to the point you made about making sure to stay in touch with your existing partners, that's kind of what I feel this CompTIA show is. I mean, yes, there's new entrants into the market, there's new partners. CompTIA does a great job of attracting younger people to become MSPs and partners, and they have a whole student motion, so they got all that going on. But it just seems like the interactions here is, once a year, you're all in the same place at the same time, and you can touch base with the people you're already doing business with, and that's important, right? You don't want to forget who got you here, right, Randy?
Yeah, definitely. We love the CompTIA event. We find it to be a very social, loyal community. And in fact, many of our partners, we also have a very large master agent ecosystem, and it's a very social community. And part of that think tank mentality is, they talk. And so that keeps us, accountable for having good partner programs and having really relevant platforms that MSPs are interested in not only selling but using themselves, that can grow up markets. So yeah, CompTIA is a valuable time spent for us, and I know Eric and Amy will be so thrilled when you stop by and give them both big hugs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And folks, again, and I'm going to make a mention of this a few times, but put it on your calendar. CompTIA is always the last day or so of July, the first day or so of August. It's a must-do. It's basically end-to-end 3 days. Jenny, if you could bring up the poll question for Intermedia, and we'll start to kind of move forward on that, and then pop back to Lisa for some good stuff. And Randy, if your time allows to stay, I'll tell you, Lisa's a firecracker. You're really in for a treat. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Randy. You had a couple slides. Forgive me. Let's.
Oh no, that's okay. We were just chit-chatting. No worries. I just brought some additional.
I don't know where
content.
I am.
No, you're fine, Lisa. Don't worry. I just provided some additional content in case anybody was, needed additional information on our partner models or our new platform or our partner experience as a whole. I just kind of threw everything in the kitchen sink on this one, but I love the back and forth with Harry. I think that keeps it real dynamic. So if there's any questions, feel free. But if not, I really enjoyed just, being on the phone with you guys.
Sure, and Randy, people get a copy of the deck, and folks, what you saw
Awesome.
there's a second ago is what I call the wheel of fire. So we do have a polling question up, and we've worked closely with Intermedia on making sure the nature of the polling questions and their interaction with our community is meaningful. And so this is a well thought out question. The question is, in your opinion, what features make a partner program most attractive? You have choices of profitability, administrative support, reliability, product offering and features, and sales and marketing support. So folks, if you could take a second to go ahead and answer that. And then Randy, like I say, if your time allows, please stay with us today. And Randy, are you down in the Bay Area today? Where are you?
Today I am in Mountain View. It's beautiful, hot Mountain View, California. We've been having a heat wave here, so I'm trying to stay cool.
Boy, howdy. Washington, D.C., Jenny, and go ahead and close out the poll. Washington, D.C., it's hot, but boy, howdy, that humidity sure pushes that heat index. It's a different.
Zaps you. Yeah. Well, you stay cool, Harry.
All righty. Okay. Thank you, Jenny, on the poll question. And Lisa, let's pop back to you and let's jump into the good stuff for these good people.
All righty. Well, Harry, I think when you and I first started talking about this, we weren't sure what to do, what topic. And I wanted to kind of focus on something I don't normally talk about because I've been trying to fine tune my business here. And I mentioned that I keep this list of things called How I Don't Get Screwed Over Anymore. And I'll tell you that this came from, what's that?
No, I'm just affirming. I said, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think last year was a learning lesson year for me because I kept finding ways I was getting screwed over. And it was basically me screwing myself over by not following my own processes because I get weak when it comes to clients and their needs, So this last year I was like, okay, so I started this list. I'll talk about here in the next slide. But, first I'm going to say is I'm not a subject matter expert on not getting screwed over. I'm a new person to this. So I just thought, why don't I share some of my experiences with folks and, just have a fun time with this because there's many of learning lessons to have, I guess. And I will probably continue to get screwed over somehow because that's how life is. You have to learn from those. But I kind of put that in my notes here that, the title is How Not to Get Screwed Over or Screw Yourself. And, we're always going to learn as a business how to learn from a failure and how to make that better for our business. And if you are, if you're an MSP, it doesn't mean that you've got new employees that maybe need to follow some of these guidelines also because they're going to be doing the things that you did in the beginning and you have to correct them. So the first thing I always say is this usually starts with managing expectations, and things I can't control is technology. And as a fun example, we'll use, have you ever had a seamless migration? So if anybody wants to raise their hand or anything now, no migrations are seamless. So the only thing that we can make seamless is our expectations to our client, right? Yes. I don't know if anybody can raise their hand, but that's pretty much the truth. So here's what I always kind of say is don't trust no one, and we'll cover that here in the slides also. And like I said, I hope there's some tips for everybody. I'm sure some of the listeners are also break fix and MSP or a mix of both. So I kind of go from the angle of break fix with some of these examples. All right, here we go. So I started my list last year when I was watching a lot of Gary Vee videos on Facebook. I just kind of was like attracted to him. He was always saying things like how to not get screwed over and things like that. And he uses a lot of other words I shouldn't mention. That's when I started the document.
Lisa, if you don't mind, I'll pitch in every now and then if you don't mind. So first of all, a couple people did find out how to raise their hands on the control panel. Folks, it's to your right, log on. So Thomas Wee out of Tacoma, Washington did. So we did get some responses. We got some hand raisers. And when you say Gary Vee, I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk referred to as Gary Vee, but
that's him.
This looks. Oh, this is Gary Vee, Gary Vaynerchuk. Okay, please continue. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have been. Yeah, he's the one who started a wine business online and kind of got real viral in the past few years with kind of like, you know, exciting people with coaching and stuff, and he's real popular. You know, I enjoyed his videos, but I only needed it for a small amount of time, you know. So I really got out of it was I needed to document all the failures I had. So every time I felt like a breakdown like that, I broke my processes. I started the list. And the list, I started writing down things of how I failed, how the company failed the client, how I lost billable time, what happened, and how it's not going to happen again. It was kind of like my own personal diary of mistakes. And every Friday, I reviewed it. I kind of put it on my list on Friday night to read it and review it and keep strong for the next week, because you're never going to fix something overnight. You might have to go through the failures a few times until, you know, you're like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I have completely learned my lesson. And it's, you know, I'll talk about in a few slides from now, saying no hurts, but it's worth it. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a $79 virus removal or a $7,900 contract, saying no. So this is why I do this. I keep my own diary and I review it weekly. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is things that I found very important was I got screwed over was I was not tracking my calls 100%. Now, I don't know how you do your business. I'm break fix by the hour, but a lot of my jobs, I have to do a couple hours on a job, but it might be in small increments of time. So I don't use a tracking system. So literally I had to figure out what works for me. And like a client will buy like an hour of time, and then I have to watch all those minutes. Because sometimes with the Outlook work I do, I might be on a call for 20 minutes, then I got to go off the clock because of certain things. And you're kind of like, well, am I getting screwed because I'm not charging the right way? But depends on your hourly rate. That's maybe how you have to do it. So tracking time on the phone or remote is real important. And if you've got a tracking system in like your, I think some of the ticket systems have that tracking. That's very important that you do that, because at the end you can say this is what is billable. I've learned also that stopping the clock is a learning lesson too, because I have to do things like import data, export data, and some of the things I'm doing is long, you know, the exporting takes a long time, or the migration. So I like to let the clients know when they're off the clock. And when people know you're off the clock, they like you much better, because they're not sitting there watching you and thinking that you're billing time. And that makes them nervous, and they start calling and texting, and then you don't want all that, so you can do other things. So that's the one thing I've learned is the time on the calls, I track it, and I tell the clients, and I actually say, don't call me back, I'll call you back, because they're sitting there watching it and fearing the large bill. Now, I also stop the clock if I'm doing something special like research that benefits me. I take things off the clock sometimes because I need to learn it for future clients or a blog or something like that. So that's the first one. The second one is stay firm on your processes. I've learned that I'm still changing my processes, but I built my processes for a reason based upon the failures. And if you like how you work, that's your thing. And we all learn from each other, and that's why we talk on forums and things like that. But most people have it fine-tuned for what works for them. So stick to what works for you. And the next thing that's important is don't let your clients offer new processes. Sometimes they will go, well, I want to do it this way. And you have to be like, well, I don't do it that way. And this is where, in the next slide I'll talk about, you have to say no. But a client can make your processes go in a bad direction, and it can be really quick, and they are really smart about it too sometimes. They want it to work their way. And I've only found that when I'm firm with my processes, that's what works for me. Before I go on to the next slide, is there any questions?
Let me. Yeah, I think, oh, wait a minute. We do have from Thomas. Hang on a second. Let me bring out the old question panel so I can read it.
I'm making you work, Harry.
Okay, Ed Carnes is disturbed that I'm on video. It's okay, Ed. It's okay. And Thomas, this is the poll placement, and I think we're fine. These are just more feedback and wise cracks. So please continue, Lisa.
Yeah, I think it's more Harry, picking on Harry. Well, I can give a lot of examples on not following your processes. I didn't know I could bring out 20 horror stories probably while all this happened. I'll get to some later, but I don't know what everybody wanted to learn. My next webinar will be the horror stories. Okay, so here's the one thing I found was really important is get your agreements in place before you're starting your work. I know it's super easy to take a call and the client is going on and on about maybe even like how the other tech didn't help them, and you're like, I'm going to be the queen and come save you and everything else. You jump in, you skip the agreements, you skip your payments, and then what happens? Something bad happens. You can't fix it, or they go off the grid, they never pay their invoice, you don't even have any information on them, you know, all that. So here's what I've learned, and this is just from many, many times of me hanging up a call going, I completely screwed myself there, is before you do the work, even if you can help them now, is get your agreement in place and get their credit card. Now, I always take a 1 hour minimum, no matter what, and I sometimes have a 2 hour minimum, depends on the job. But if they can't fill out that form and they can't pay you, then I would say that's a no. That's a no, because that kind of puts them in control. And if you're asking them to do it and they say no, that's a big flag. I will give an example. I helped a lawyer about a month and a half ago, and he did my online appointment scheduler, and he paid, but I forgot to check to see if his client's agreement got put in, and I overlooked it. And 15 minutes into the appointment, he wanted me to start moving data around from OneDrive to his documents, and I got thinking, I was like, did I verify that he put that agreement form in? And I didn't. And so I stopped him and said, well, before we do anything else, I forgot to double check your agreement. I didn't get it. And he was like, oh, yeah, that? Well, I'm not filling that out. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do any more work till you fill it out, so let's just take a minute. I'll even go off the clock to let you do it. And he was really firm with me. Lisa, I'm not filling that out. And I said, well, then we're stopping. And I stopped the work because I didn't know what I was getting into. You know, I didn't have any protections in place, and I don't know what he was going to do. And it was really just kind of like very awkward. So I did give him his money back after 15 minutes and was like, we're done. So that makes me stop and go, okay, if I'm that much of a hurry, why am I not checking, you know? And it's easy to overlook those little things that can maybe have, you know, some problems down the road. And one is what I put in my notes here, chargebacks. You know, people aren't happy. And even though people fill out maybe a chargeback and you've got all the documentation, you could still lose. But it helps to have everything in order at least. And also, I think it gives you that level of professionalism that somebody that's not so up to par is not going to follow along, so you can get them out of your clientele sooner. And anyway, if it's urgent to them and they don't have time to fill it out, that's a sign. Stop, drop, roll, escape. I say that because there's nothing wrong with saying no.
And Lisa, what I found is these early observed behaviors. It's a little bit like interviewing a candidate for a job. Think of it, you know, this is the best you're ever going to see them, right? That first interview, when they screw away, and I've been screwed over, but that's not why we're here. But the point is, if your client is exhibiting this behavior before the work starts, I really think there is something to the saying, this is the best you're ever going to see them, right? And
right.
may or may not be true, but it's not unhealthy to think that way. If you're getting, you know, a weird vibe or just overt resistance, these are.
Harry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. I think your stream is bad there. I'm not sure if folks can still hear me. I can't hear Harry, so should I just keep going?
Yep, you're good, Lisa. I can still hear you,
okay.
So I think it's Harry. So
sorry.
Go ahead.
That's how it is
Hey,
at
Lisa,
those big events. Your Wi-Fi is. Yeah, well, Harry,
yeah,
you might want to get off the webcam.
Yeah, I'll, or better yet, I'm going to call in. I'll stay on webcam. I'm going to call in right back at you, Lisa. Please continue.
Okay. All right, I'll continue on. So the other thing I've learned is collect enough money before the services to at least cover the hour. I sometimes quote project. Well, you know, if I quote a project of 2 hours, it's for me right now it's $2.99. I also sell the prepay, which we'll talk about later. But you know, always good enough to collect before services and make sure like everybody's heard this in our business. Well, that should be quick for you to do. Okay, yeah, it might take me 15 minutes, but I always quote 2 hours because then the expectation is set and I have 2 hours on the clock, which I can always refund or credit. And I typically don't refund or credit. I let that stay on my ticket with them so they can call back again. But this sets the tone. If you say it up front, you know, let's just go with 2 hours to start. And you don't even have to say 2 hours max, because what if it's a 4-hour job? But you want people to have expectations that this 15-minute thing might go into 2 hours, and if not, great. But if so, at least you know you're getting paid for your work. And plus, if you don't have those agreements in place with the credit card, that you know, doesn't help. So that's why I say both go hand in hand. And for you folks that do, I know a lot of you have local business only. So I'm remote only, and I deal with anybody in the world. So here's what I say is if you're doing a remote job, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be doing any work with a credit card and agreement in place before you do anything. The remote world is kind of nuts. I deal with it all the time, and I'm dealing with pure strangers. But you got to remember, like, you know, people that call like the big companies online to get help, they have to pay a credit card and then get help. So you really are kind of no different. And also, if you're chasing down invoices, I really stress this online when I'm in forums and Facebook with people. I'm like, I don't know why you guys invoice. If you are helping someone right now, you should just be getting their credit card and taking care of that. Chasing down invoices is not something I enjoy doing at all. And to close this one, it's super easy just to say, well, let me get your credit card and then we get going. And sometimes I will get their card, I'll remote in, and then have them do the client agreement form, get that taken care of, and then I can start work. And that's how I do it so quick.
Now, Lisa, I'm back. First of all, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm on my phone, and you can probably see me on my phone, and you're absolutely right. I'm dealing with trade show Wi-Fi. With that said,
I know, I've been there.
Slide, oh, yeah. Well, I'll leave it at that. But your statement, I want to have a little fun. Your statement about, you know, chasing and dealing with strangers you've never met online, there's a little bit of a double entendre there, but the humor value, there was a joke in there somewhere, and you and I have enjoyed some good chuckles along the way, but please continue. I'm going on mute because I'm not sure I landed that joke.
Well, you know what? I do deal with strangers all day long, and that includes the technicians online I know, and it's like this virtual cool world, but you can't trust everybody. Nope. All right, so the next one is documentation really does matter. I think that everybody has their own documentation and what they want and what they can review, and some people have to send their documentation to the clients. I typically don't, but I keep it for my own knowledge, and I always write up a little thing. Well, if you don't document the call, you can't bill them or track their usage or their plans or whatever. So I think the one fail is even if you just say, here's the time I helped them, 6 minutes, reset a password, just simple stuff, that's really important. I know that a lot of people just skip that stuff. They're like, yeah, it was just a quick freebie. You know, who cares? I still put in my documentation. I did it for free usually. Sometimes I miss it, but the time you don't is when you have to go back and say, oh, what did I do, even though I didn't do it? And that's screwing yourself out of some time. For those that you do all you can eat, well, you know, that maybe is a documentation thing to save you when a client says, I called in and talked to one of your techs and they didn't track it. Train your techs to follow your behavior, and they'll, you know, it's important that they do it so you can see it. Like I said before, I track time on the phone. I'm on my phone all day, and I'd also do it in my remote software. But the big things is for documentation is personal learning and development. And I don't, when Dave is exporting, uploading, and transferring, I do that a lot with Outlook. I put that in the documentation, and I might have to go off the clock for a while. And also, I'm not sure why I need to schedule for later. I might have had the wrong slide here for that. But anyway, as a final tip, this is also good for jobs that may go into many hours. If you're tracking by the time, you want to put it in the ticket, the time you did and when you stopped. and to make sure to tell the client, this is most important, we are at the 1 hour mark. I need to collect for another hour. And so this is for folks that are thinking they're getting a flat fee project, which I never do. I almost never do that. And that's why you need to say, I'm going to take another hour off your credit card, and then you put in the documentation, they approved it, or this is into a second hour job. That is really most important to me.
Two thoughts. One is I cut my teeth as a white-collar consultant in the 90s for a large regional accounting firm in the Pacific Northwest called Clark Nuber, and we were all about time slips, and we were all about billing by the hour, and we were all about managing expectations, right? I mean, that's how you made partner in that accounting firm. If you didn't even have to be very good at sales. You did need to, execute. You needed to do what your job. You needed to do good work. More importantly, account management. So I want to echo that, and that exists, right? Time billing by the hour exists. Very common law firms, CPA firms, et cetera. Not everybody's as a service. And Lisa, in case I missed it, when you say tracking your time, are you using time slips, or what tool are you using, if you don't mind?
No, I use a real simple tool. It's called I have a very old ticket system that I don't even talk about because no one uses it anymore. It was real popular about 10 years ago. And I literally created tickets for the client. I put in what I did, then I have an invoice, and then I click a payment button. I mean, mine is so simple, it's silly. But in the next few slides, I'll talk about the prepaid ticket, and that'll explain more how I do it.
Okay, all right.
But
please continue.
I literally, one ticket is for as many hours as possible. It's more like a job. The job is in that ticket. So,
cool.
All right. So now we're going to talk about some fun stuff, okay? And these were really the biggest ones on my how to not get screwed over list, believe it or not, okay? So this is good to keep learning things. So one thing I've learned, and I'm one of them, fast talker. So I've learned that if fast talking client, I go real slow because they're going to talk and you need to take notes because they're talking and talking and talking and you have to keep up with what they're talking about, okay? So sometimes when they're talking, I keep notes and I will stop what I'm doing actually to write the notes. So they're talking and I'm typing. And I'm trying to take leads on what they want done or the problems they've had, and then I sit and review it because that's like me playing like the nurse of the surgery. Okay, let's get all the stuff going on here, and then finally when they're done, I look at it and say, wow, you've just said 8 minutes of things that actually might end up being a lot more work because you're going to need me to do this and that, and then you wanted that, and then you wanted everything, Because when they're talking, they'll let you know everything they want if you listen. So that's the big thing I do is when they talk fast, I go slow. And my next slide, I got some other notes on that. But I think I've put this in the wrong slide. But the other one is the mouse stealers. The mouse stealers, when you're working with those folks, they tend to like to drive a lot. And so I've learned that you kind of have to have a game. Like I tell them, look, if you want the mouse, you have to let me know because if we don't, we're going to have data that gets deleted. That usually stops and slows down the ticket. So if you understand where I'm going here, fast talkers, they want to drive, you need to slow those people down to do a better job. Okay? They're going to want you to go fast if you're doing hourly work, and you've got to slow them down, otherwise you're not going to do your best work. Does that make sense?
Well, it does.
I can't see if anybody's raising their hand or not, but to me it does.
Well, it does, Lisa, because I'll tell you, when I'm working with professionals, right? I mean, I'm running a real company, and a better example would be healthcare. I don't want a cardiologist to go fast, right? If I need a cardiologist, I want him to go slow and methodically.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Well, it's really easy to get caught up in their in their long stories and stuff, and then you're confused and you forgot what they originally called about. So this is one thing I do is slow them people down. Well, not them people, but I slow them down, take the notes, and then I follow my notes too in the job request. Now, a lot of you probably don't know what I do, but as an Outlook expert, I take crazy messed up calls from people on the internet that have like 8 email accounts and iCloud and G calendars, G Suite calendars, and it's a lot of fixing sometimes. So to me, it's real important that I follow my list while I'm helping them. That makes me not more money, but it usually does, but I can get the job done correctly too. All right, this other slide here is if you're doing tech work, I recommend not talking while you're doing the tech work. Sometimes folks like to talk while you're working, and I can do that sometimes with little things, but I've learned that I need to ask them to not talk if they're talkers. And then usually what I end up saying is, look, I got to go do some, importing, exporting, so I'm not going to talk for a little bit. And if you want, I'll just put you on mute. And then they go, oh, no, that's okay. We can still talk. And I say, no, I can't talk while I'm doing this because this is really important. And I let it slide one time a few weeks ago. And I'll tell you guys that the lady and I were having such a good chat, and I was doing all this work, and then I imported the wrong calendar into the wrong calendar. And I'll tell you that I had to tell her, I'm so glad I backed up your calendar, because I always do that, but now I have to fix that, and that's going to take a half hour of my time. So I had to compliment her 30 minutes free to fix my mess for not stopping to talk, okay? Data backup, data work is super important, and that's why you lose money on this. And that's what I did just a few weeks ago. And here's a guide for quoting. This is kind of where I'm getting into the tech-savvy Googler people. I don't know if any of you guys get those, but I'm sure you do. They call, and they're like, oh, I've been Googling all day, and I'm ready to throw in the towel, So I have a couple things. If a client emails me in a large work document of problems, it's 1 hour per page. I just go with that quote, because I've gotten some 8-page ones before. And I say that's 8 hours, and they don't like hearing that. So then those are usually Googlers, because in the document, they also have links to everything they've tried, and they said this doesn't work, and they also are the ones that claim they're tech savvy, which tech savvy is getting to be real popular now. Does anybody agree? You can raise your hands here because a lot of my clients are tech savvy. I can't see if anybody's raising their hands, Jenny. I'm hoping that's a full yes.
Yep, we do have people raising their hands.
Okay, good. Well, this is my joke because I hear this constantly. The people are like, well, I'm really tech savvy. I know Outlook and I know it really well. And I'm like, okay, not as well as me probably, but give it a shot, And then they're the ones who want to not pay as much. They're the ones who think they can get 15 minutes out of me. And they're the ones who actually, if I get the tech savvy ones that want to be involved, I actually look forward to it because they usually will pay for extra time because they're learning. So then I actually know I'm actually doing teaching and not fixing because they want to learn every step. So I make more money off the tech savvy sometimes. Yeah. But sometimes I don't. But if you put out there you're $169 an hour by the hour, no matter what for that person, if they love what you're doing, they will keep paying. That's how you make more money. Otherwise, you might get screwed because they just want the quick answer. But they want it really quick, and you have to explain to them. So it's kind of a wash with those, but...
Hey, Lisa, let me just do a sanity check. We're going to hear in 5 minutes. Let's have a conversation with Brett from Cynic. So heads up.
Okay.
Folks, if you joined us late, this is one of the premier webinars, one of the premier lectures of the summer quarter for MSP Tech Talk. This is Lisa out of Florida, calling it like it is. I mean, I really find this refreshing that you're just giving us the straight scoop. But please continue, and I'm going to interrupt you in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk with Brett from Cynic.
Sounds good. I'll keep rolling. All right, so one thing I've had to learn in the past, a few months is just saying no, even if it hurts a little or if it hurts a lot. And sometimes I've had to turn down things that were really easy, and sometimes I had to turn down things that were challenging, but I saw flags involved, and I don't really want stress anymore. My business has been, I think this August 17th is my 12th year, or my 11th year. And I've been through a lot of things, and saying no is something I just never thought I really ever, could do. I'm like, you had to take every client, but I've learned to listen, and I'm learning to be a yes or no person, like yes, I can help, and no, I can't. And that to me is real important for my business to do better, I think. I've learned one thing is that my price is a yes or no for people. And I've had people like this lady a couple weeks ago, for right out of the gate, how much are you? And I was like, great. She wants to know right away. I was like, $169 an hour. And then she was like, oh boy, I don't think it's going to be an hour. I just only need like 15 minutes. I'm like, no, it's 1 hour. And she was like, well, what if it was only a half hour? And at that point, I'm going, okay, if we're already bickering about the price, you're not my perfect client. Not that every client's perfect, but I don't want to be bickering. And literally, it was 11 minutes of my life I'll never get back when I finally told her, I'm going to pass on this job. And she was like, are you passing on it because of the price? I said, I'm passing on it, yeah, because we're now arguing about the price. And I already told you 4 minutes ago I'm not helping. I work my consultants into like 8-10 minutes, and then I'm done. I don't spend a lot of time. And I was actually laughing at the end going, I can't believe I spent 11 minutes with her. It really kind of bothered me for a 1 hour job. I'm already into it 15 minutes almost. So I listen to when I'm talking. I try to tell people my price up front. If the price doesn't matter to them, then I'll listen to their problems and we book the appointment usually. And money does talk. So you can talk to someone for 15 minutes and listen to all their problems and then tell them the price. And I've had it where they're like, nope, you're too expensive. And I'm like, why didn't I tell them right in the beginning? But the no part that I guess when, like with her saying no, I knew I saved myself a lot of problems. Like that was good. I should have just cut it off right in the beginning. But anyway, saying no does something I'm trying to learn to do more of to be happy later, I guess.
Well, Lisa, let me ask you a question about that. And then
okay.
We'll hop over to Brett from Cynic. So we'll take a pause. But at recent conferences, Ingram Cloud Summit in Boca, and even here at CompTIA, I did not attend this. This was a pre-day the other day, but the Women in Technology sessions, the Women in Technology lunch, and I went to one of them in Boca for Ingram, and it was interesting. They had, the women executives up on the stage, and the audience was women and men, and this conversation was interesting. They framed it up as almost, I'm going to say, gender bias. I mean it in a kind way, but one of the challenges of women in technology is the ability to say no, is the ability to do a couple of those things, historically, right? And I'm not sure, you're not framing it up that way. That's not my sense, but I'm just saying I've seen this conversation framed up from a different perspective in the Women in Technology luncheons and so on. I mean, does that make sense? And I mean no offense. I'm just reporting, right, how that conversation's occurred before.
Well, here's how I look at myself as I'm a technician and a business owner first, so I don't look at myself as a female in technology.
Right.
I have about 70% of my clients are men. I get the same calls from them. The men are the tech savvy ones. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to get down to it, and it doesn't matter what gender. I'm learning the flags are price. And if people don't care about the price, we're moving on. Seriously, it doesn't matter because people are chintzy, whether it be female, male, whatever. And I will tell you at the end though who my favorite client is. We're gonna save it for last, okay?
Okay.
But I'm gonna finish this one part, and then we can go to the next thing. I just want to finish this one part of the slide.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead and get me to a break point, and we'll talk to Brett.
Yep. Okay. So the last thing is the huge red flag is when you're emailing or talking to someone that say, what if you don't fix it? Do you still charge me? Immediate red flag. I never work with people that ask me that. Ever.
Yeah.
That's that slide. And you know what? I don't have the next slide up, Harry, for the next one. We're off our time, but that's okay. Sorry.
Well, if you wanna pop ahead to Cynics, Jenny, I think you're going to queue up a video, if I'm correct. And Brett, come on board, sir. Where are you today? What are you doing? What is your story?
Hey, everyone. Brett Weekly here. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina at our sales headquarters.
Okay.
This was part of my daily routine today was actually be on this call. And then also I had some customer calls prior to this. I'm a Azure specialist, and I also focus on other cloud products here on the Microsoft side at Cynics. That's kind of my role, a little bit about me.
Well, a couple of thoughts, Brett. So first of all, you may have heard at the beginning of the call, I'm at the MSP at ChannelCon conference in lovely, humid, high heat index Washington, D.C. I'm not sweating on camera. Fortunately, I'm in air conditioning right now, but you're here. Not you personally, but Synnex is here. And so I'm going to take it upon myself to stop by the table. And thank you guys for your sponsorship. It's because of Intermedia, Synnex, and SolarWinds that we're on the air, right? We're delivering real content that's content heavy with the generous support of our underwriters, just like National Public Radio or Public TV. That's what we wake up thinking about at the beginning of the day. And Brett, another hook is I had almost an hour-long phone call today earlier with a person on the original small business server team in the late 90s, Victoria Grady. Fast forward the movie nearly 20 years, and she's an executive at Microsoft. She's a GM, which is folks, that's getting right up there. I remember when she was hired, and now she's a GM, and her role is Azure Marketing and Azure Partners. So I'm glad you mentioned Azure, because in that hour-long call with Victoria, we're trying to explore how to define the paradigm for Azure and small business. And spoiler alert, Brett, it's a work in progress, right? We have some work to do to define Azure and small business. But, rest assured we're working on it, right? So I just wanted to throw that plug in. And it's a fair comment, because many of the attendees on today, and Ron Hardy out of Gig Harbor and Ed Carnes out of Nashville, we're doggone it, we're trying to make Azure fit. We're just trying to make it fit, and we're going to get there, Brett. We're going to get there. It's just going to take, it's a journey. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Azure doesn't always come easy, but it's always about finding that right niche and, expanding from there.
Yeah, exactly. Jenny, are you ready to queue up that video in the background for Synnex? And let's do that. And then before you know it, we're going to get back to Lisa. We'll see if we can bring that up, Brett. Brett, do they allow you out to go to different shows while we're taking a look at that? Do you get to go to some? Were you at Microsoft Inspire by chance, or those kind of things?
All right, we're back. Looks like Harry's lost in a Wi-Fi fog.
Are you near here? Are you
Okay.
there?
Boy, I'm having the trade show floor blues. Can you hear me?
No kidding. I can now. You were fogged out.
Oh
great.
boy, I just it's everything broadcasting live from a large trade show hall with convention Wi-Fi. Lisa, I'm going to go back on mute. Please, Brett, thank you so much, sir. Lisa, please
No
continue.
problem. All right. Okay, so here's some big things, you folks, that I found in the last year have been super valuable to me, is how to stop screwing myself as doing work I don't know very well. So stop doing work outside your wheelhouse. Learn to use a referral circle. So here's what I tell my clients. If you go to Google, it's time to call me. And that's the
and
stop
Lisa,
break I give clients. Yeah?
Lisa, forgive me. We're going to get through it. It's a Monday on a Wednesday. Jenny, we have a poll up. Can you come on, Jenny, and go ahead and make mention of the poll and let us know when that clears?
We do. We have a pull up. Do you currently have a Microsoft Cloud practice? And your selections are yes, no, or I don't know. So we'll give it just a couple more seconds. Quite a few of you have voted, so thank you so much for doing that. That really helps us. A couple more of you could vote. That would be fantastic.
Okay, great. And while we're waiting, Lisa, I have a unrelated question for you. Do you go to trade shows? Would people have the expectation of seeing you, for example, at IT Nation in Florida in November? Do you find yourself at different industry conferences?
You know, I've done a couple of them. I went to CompTIA in Phoenix a few years ago. That's where I met, I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying yes.
Yeah, I went to that one. That was really wonderful. It was like 120 degrees in August. And I was from Minnesota and I about had a heart attack every day, but I made it. And then I was invited to speak at the ABA Tech Show in Chicago last year. I did 2 presentations there. Otherwise, I really don't go to events much. I did do MSP World in Vegas, and frankly, MSP folks didn't really know how to talk to me, I don't think.
Yeah.
They didn't really like the people that had booths. They were like, what do you do? And I wasn't their client, so I guess I'm willing to go to stuff. I just don't know where I fit in.
Sure. And we have a couple questions I'm going to knock out, Lisa, then it's all you once again. So we have Ron Hardy, from Gig Harbor, Washington, who's real active in the community. And also, Ron, I know I can always count on you to forgive me when I'm in a trade show hall with convention Wi-Fi. So thank you, Ron. Ron makes a couple comments. Everybody thinks they're tech savvy when they can power up a machine. That goes back a few minutes ago. Ron goes on to say, the guy down the street charges 2/3 my price, says the prospective client. Excuse me. So the client's doing a little, if you will, bid shopping. I tell him what a good deal that sounds like and encourage them to hurry and grab that offer before my competitor figures out that they are losing money. Usually the client comes back disillusioned and wanting me to take the work. I ask for more money. Love it. Love a penalty laugh. He goes on to say, sometimes that they have to be proven they're going to be easy to work with. Sometimes I just tell them my schedule is filled up and congratulate them on the great deal they got from the competitor. Lisa, he's alluding to saying no. And then Ron goes on to say, this is good stuff, Lisa. So thank you, Ron. Jenny,
thanks, Ron.
Are we ready to? Yeah, ready to jump back in with Lisa's slides, Jenny?
I think so.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ron, for saying that. Which there's 20 ways to turn down a client that says that, by the way. I get those too. You know, one of my favorite is, I'm not paying you more than what I bill an hour. And I go, well, then you didn't get my help. They don't think I'm worth my dollar when they're like $125. Okay, so anyway, here's what I tell my clients. If you, after I help you and you move on with life and you go to Google to fix something, that's when I tell you to stop and call me. Google's not your friend unless you know how to Google, you know? So when I'm saying this, don't do work outside your wheelhouse. I think a lot of people are tempted to say, oh yeah, I can write that, Excel macro for you. No problem, I'll figure it out. Well, I've learned that Google is my friend when I need to find an error or do something specific. But if I'm out Googling how to do something for a client that I've never done, it's time for me to find a referral. And the expectations you put out with when a client calls and says, really what I need is someone who can write an Excel macro for me, or a macro for Excel, whatever. You can say, look, I don't do that, but I know an expert that does, and there is no crime in giving a job to somebody else that's going to do it with better expectations, better results, and throw you a commission, okay? Then you're also putting it to your client that they don't do what you do. So you're not going to lose your client by giving them a one-off job to another expert. Does that make sense? Everybody raise their hand. Does that make sense? I can't see the hand raising, but I'm assuming it does, because we're in a time right now where people are Googling and they are getting themselves in trouble. And I've learned this past year, I absolutely say no right away. But I don't say no. I say I have somebody else. And then I have my referral circle. Now, here's the one thing you might want to think about. My second line there is if you're deep in a job, many hours in, no fixing, whatever it is, and most of you and myself have been like, how do I tell a client after 4 hours I can't fix this? And then you're like, well, I just charge them an hour even though you didn't fix it? How do I get paid for that hour? Well, here's what I try to do with myself is if I'm at a 30-minute mark, that's when I stop and go, what's the best option here? I obviously don't know what I'm doing. Is there another person that can do it? I don't mind taking a 30-minute hit if that can be referred to somebody else. And I just did it last week with a very odd Outlook problem. It had to do with this linking contacts in 2016, and frankly, it was never a call I've done before. And of course, when I go to Google it, who do I find? My mentor, Diane Poremski, who is the queen of Outlook. And I actually took the call from a tech referral, and I said to him, look, you know what? I found the answer that needs to be done by Diane, the expert, so I'm not going to bill you for this. I'm outside my wheelhouse. I sent the clients over to Diane, who has the fix on her website, and she knows how to do it. So I went over 30 minutes a little bit, but I knew when to stop. And that's what I think we all need to start doing is using our circles. And this is where I know what's in my wheelhouse or not. So when someone calls, they're like, well, we need Office 365 set up. We need a migration. And then, oh, yes, we're going to need a whole bunch of, custom-made Outlook templates. And they start rattling on their favorite list of stuff. That's when I stop and say, well, no company's going to be able to do all that for you, so I can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to send you to my referrals for the rest. That puts the expectation out there that you're not the everything for that person sometimes, but you're going to do most of it. So anyway, during a consult, I'll make sure to pinpoint out what I can't do and what I can do. And I refer that out, and the biggest one lately is SharePoint migrations. A lot of people throw that in at the end. Well, then I need my SharePoint migrated too. Well, I don't do SharePoint migrations, but I know people. All right, any questions on that one, folks? All right, keep going.
No questions, Lisa, but we do have a comment. Ron says, I have to pay my attorney even when he loses the case. My business is no different.
Right. Well, I guess, I don't know how Ron's business is set up, but mine's break fix, and I eventually will fix things I take on. And I eventually fix it even if it takes 4 hours of billable time. Sometimes the answer is not the solution they want. Sometimes the answer is upgrading Outlook 2007 to 2016. Sometimes the solution is taking them off IMAP to Exchange. Sometimes the solution is finding a new app on their phone that works for them instead of the built-in iPhone. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but to me, the bigger question, let me barge in, the bigger question is, why does Ron need so much work from attorneys? Is this in the professional realm or the personal realm? So, Ron, I'm going to leave that dangling out there, and I'm going to go back up mute. Please continue, Lisa. Thank you, Jenny, for taking over the questions.
Okay, so the big next one is kind of a funny one. I learned from Matt Rainey, who was on Podnuts Pro, if any of you guys listen to that podcast. Years ago, I had him on my show, one of my podcasts, and he just coined it perfectly when he said, yes or no, or it's billable work. So when clients call in, whether they're on MSP or break fix, the yes or no is super important to me. Like if someone emails me and they ask a question, I say yes or no. Otherwise, let's schedule an appointment. and the appointment is now billable. We've all done for years the clients that keep asking on and on and on questions, and sometimes I let it go, but most of the time I catch it and say, look, I need, even if it's on the phone, I got to bill you because I'm giving you answers, and it's my knowledge. It's easy to let him slide, but he runs a, I don't know if his business has changed, but he does an MSP and break fix model. So to him, he was like, I have no problem putting out a invoice for a question, and those add up, and they do. If you think about it, all of those add up in time. So let me look at my slide here. So if you're out Googling, it's time to reconsider referral or hiring an expert. This is how I train my clients to call me. I actually might think I already went through that one. Sorry. We're at the Cynics one here, Harry. This is where I put that in. Sorry. Are we ready for Cynics?
We already, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just continue on. Okay, so here's a slide about prepaid tickets. I could really have a whole show about prepaid tickets. I've already done one, and it's pretty extensive. But if you are not a 100% managed service client or service provider and you still do break fix, the prepaid ticket is really what changed my business almost 10 years ago. And I'm really trying to just sell all prepaid tickets, but it's a hard transition. But they're kind of like blocks of time, and I'm sure the MSP guys or techs or businesses rather selling 10 to 20 hours. I only do 4 or 8 hours. It's more manageable for my business. For me, I don't need to make huge $1,000 sales because it's just me here, and I only do my own support. So here's where a prepaid ticket is handy. Is one thing you might do that screws you is you might close the ticket with the client and then say, okay, we're done, but you know they're going to have questions later. You know that they're going to email in questions, and they could keep going on for a week, especially with a new computer setup or new software setup. There's always those little tiny snags. So what I love about prepaid tickets is that I sometimes will be like, okay, that person's emailed in 5 questions. I go put it on the prepaid ticket, 15 minutes, so at least I'm getting paid for those quick questions, and they're tracked. I already have it in the email, but that's why I sell prepay, to let that, I don't have to, invoice for every email, which is insane. You never really would do that. Or I tell clients, I'm going to keep your ticket open and I'm going to keep your credit card on file. And when you're done asking questions, then I'll do the final invoice. So, because you still got to, those little questions are important for them to get their software set up perfectly. And it's not worth a remote call for every one of them. So you're not screwing yourself out of those. And also the final thing is, remember, if you charge, let's say $125, you are going to have to answer your questions for free if you don't tell them that their bill is continuing. That's why I love prepaid tickets, because I just let it keep rolling. And here's an example of one of my old graphics I used to put on my old website, just an outline of the prepaid tickets. Those prices are not matching, but just kind of a quick description with bullets. And this is how I'm really trying to have my business now, but it's hard to get out of break fix for me. Okay, now we're going to close up here with a few notes about consults and how I work. A lot of people don't understand my business anyway, but I pretty much take break fix calls from people on the internet. They want to do a consult for free, of course, and they always want to tell me all the problems, which is fine. But remember, I really want to get them into a 1-hour job to sell them bigger things like migrations and projects and such. So I will typically do a 10 to 15 minute consult for free. Sometimes I don't tell them my rates in the beginning. Sometimes I do need to listen to make sure I can even help them. If I can't help them in the end, what's the point? But I always learn from these consults. So after a 10 to 15 minute consult, I will say to the clients, well, look, maybe we should schedule a 1-hour paid consult so then I can dig in deeper into your situation, remote in, look at your Office 365, go see where the problems are. I can actually start doing some work, and then you can decide if you want to upgrade to a 4 or 8 hour ticket and have me complete the work. And when I started doing that, I really changed my business a lot, because it gives them like a test hour with you where no one's really going to worry about a $169 fee if they're getting information at least. And I found it to be a win for us both. I got many more ticket purchases after that, and then people started becoming my clientele. So it's kind of like try it before you buy it. And I found that some people were They just wanted to know the information to do it themselves. And I'm like, either way, they're not going to buy a ticket. So I might as well get the hour out of it and not tell them in a consult how to do it. And I think that's the failure we all do, is we want to show our knowledge off. And you can't show it off unless you're getting paid. And let's see. Also close your consults with a little wiggle room in case you have to refer out work. Like I said, the SharePoint thing has come up enough where I'm involved in a consult, and at the end they're like, oh yeah, well, we've got a SharePoint site with 100 external users and that we forgot about. And that adds a whole new, to a migration or to anything, it adds a lot more work. So this is why you got to leave a little wiggle room in those for the extras. And also, you want to leave room in your quotes for more money. I found that this is a kind of a thing that happens a lot is, you might do a migration quote of, let's say, 10 users, and there are things that gets overlooked that can cause a lot more time on the job, like old versions of Outlook or forgotten employees. And that one's huge. I've actually had a franchise forget an entire franchise before of 85 users. I don't know how that happened. The SharePoint site with the users, issues outside your wheelhouse, work that might need to be referred out, and you never know if there's extras. That is screwing yourself if you don't try to figure out everything, because I saw on Facebook once a guy, I believe it was 100 mailboxes, and he didn't check the old versions of Outlook, and they all had 2007. All of them had to get upgraded, and he said, I can't bill for it. Like, well, if you would have left in the wiggle room, you could have, because that's a huge amount of time that you have to spend upgrading 100 systems. And that, it's going to be a lot. So that's what I always put in the quotes. And finally, I got a few sales tips here for Office 365. I actually have a whole video dedicated to this on my YouTube. But when I get a lot of calls in for Office 365, I get a lot of people that just want all the information they can get out of me. And I've learned that all needs to be in a 1-hour consult, because if they're tech savvy and they think they can do a migration themselves, they just want to know a few of the things, like when do I cut over the DNS and what records will I break and how do I do this? And those things are paid time. And I'm saying, don't be fooled, because a lot of them are out digging for information. And if you are a company that wants to take over an entire, managed system for people, and you're sitting there giving them an hour free of telling them how to do it, you might lose that job, because they're going to go off and Google to it themselves and be tech savvy. That's why I do the 1 hour. I get it out of them, and at the 1 hour, I'm like, I'll give you everything you want, but then I make it really extra tech savvy for them too. Make it confusing a little bit, but the truthful. And sometimes they are already doing a migration on their own or something else big, and they just want your help. A lot of my clients just buy from Microsoft because it's so dang easy, and they do. But then they don't realize when it comes to getting Microsoft help that they need you. So here's where I'm going to give you MSP folks a tip on some things I've learned is sometimes it's not better to move a client directly from Microsoft to like a vendor, because they're actually going to pay a lot more when they're already not used to paying the higher prices and they don't see a value. So here's what I tell folks is get them into your systems, but let them still continue to pay Microsoft and kind of have that that little wiggle room. So when you say like your support should be done by them first, and we're still going to help you with other things, then you're not leaving support off the table. And you want them to test your support because they're calling you for a reason. So I like selling them my prepaid tickets. And that's why I know some MSPs are like, well, we want them into our all-inclusive or all-you-can-eat and all that, but that's why keeping an option for prepaid tickets nice, because then you can show them the value. Well, if you are on our system, you won't be paying the $500 prepay, and you're going to roll through that faster. So, because those are included. And like I said, they're calling you for a reason because they're not happy with Microsoft. And that's how I do a lot of my work. Is a lot of my clients are with them, but they pay me to do the work. Okay, closing up soon here is follow-ups. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm back. I'm popping in and out. The trade show's now officially open, so I've been staying on mute more. But you just hit on an important point about our industry that I did want to have people fly by. Is guys, there's a lot of business opportunities at what I call gap fillers. And so if I heard you correctly about they may or may not be happy with Microsoft support, and that results in work for you, And that is a great business model. I mean, that's not just the service delivery you're doing to clients, but you can extend that to Azure and 365 and Dynamics, and just step back and go, what is Microsoft not doing, right? And there are a lot of companies out there that are 10 to 15 million in revenue with a gap filler model. I mean, it's a real business. But please continue. I just wanted to interject.
Well, the point is, I see this out there, Harry, is that people want to manage the account and make all the revenue off the money. Think about this way. Instead of selling your client on getting them into your funnel, is to say, hey, we'll support you with a prepaid ticket, and everything we do is billable. You're going to make more money off them, and then they'll come over to your plan eventually. I can tell you I've already done the vendor pricing versus mine, and my clients are like, I'm going to stay with Microsoft and just pay you more. I'm like, sounds good. That's how I work, though. A lot of people don't.
There you go.
Okay, so next thing is follow-ups. I know the MSP model works on, you guys have your proposals and your meetings and yada, yada, yada. Break fix people are break fix now. I frankly have kind of given up on follow-ups. And the reason why is because I've got I find them frustrating, first of all. I already did the consult with them, or I emailed them everything they need. And I kind of feel like, well, now I'm just waiting them to find a time to work with me when I'm like kind of in demand. I have a rare niche business that if my calendar's open, you can get on it that same day. Okay. So for me to do a follow-up is kind of silly, but I did try it. I don't like it. What works for me is I'll do the consult, and I close it with saying, I'm going to send you all the information you need to get started, whether it be an appointment, buy a prepaid ticket, do a migration. I've got my surveys in place. I have everything I need ready to go. And I literally close them with saying, well, you know what? Call me when you're ready, or go schedule an appointment, and I'm always here, and I'm ready to get started. And then I send out the information, and that's it. I move on. I'm kind of people need me. So I kind of give up that expectation of, well, you know what, I'm here and I have my procedures, so nothing's going to really mess with that. And people 2 or 3 weeks later, they're like, we're ready to go. And I didn't waste my time then emailing them saying, hey, blah, blah, blah. I do sometimes do follow-ups with people that want to get on my consult calendar, though, because half the time they have email problems and I don't know if they got my email. See, so I have to kind of double check that sometimes. Okay, and here I just found this cute little graphic, life's too short for follow-up calls. I like to follow up with me when you're ready. I kind of act like when they're kind of being pushy, I don't need their business, and I have a controlled schedule that best flows with my terms. And I also have learned to lately start saying, I won't be contacting you back. You fill it out when you're ready. And that kind of puts it in their hands to go, wow, okay, I've had people say that. Sounds good. I'm not going to be bothering you. I'm not going to email you back. In fact, I'll just add on here, I don't even email follow-up calls after I'm done with my appointments, because people, frankly, are just happy their stuff's working. They don't even reply back to me. So I just quit doing follow-up emails too. And let's see, people are shopping right now. So one thing for you MSP folks out there, the break fix people get it probably more, is people are shopping right now like crazy. I hear it all the time. We're out getting quotes for Office 365. It is, I hope I'm saying this right, like a commodity. Like, hey, let's just go and find 10 people that do it and see what best quote we get. So if you're out, if you're in the pool of people they're calling to get the quotes, that's why I say have the professionalism ready, have your templates ready. Your pricing is super important to have ready, because if they're out shopping, they want to hear a number. And I have pricing numbers on my website listed that don't change. And that I think is real important, because if I'm going to give them an 8-minute consult and give them everything they need, and I call them same day, that beats everybody in my opinion. But sometimes my price is too high. I lose them. Finally, I'm going to recommend you have an online calendar system ready. I think this is just super important, even if you just book it for your consult. It kind of gives your clients an expectation that you're going to call at a certain time, who is calling who, and there's no what time zone are you in, blah, blah, blah. I've been using my calendar system for almost 3 years now, and I love it. But if you're using Office 365, the bookings one is perfect for you folks to showcase that you're also using the Office products. And it doesn't work for me because I've tried it and it's failed. That's why I use my professional system. But I think the clients will find it very, oh, they're already using the program. That's cool. I have a client that uses that just for that purpose, and it works out real well for him. And it also, let's see here. I was just saying I don't use it because it doesn't have enough stuff for me. But I do remote around the world, and I really need a little bit more. But that's over here is an example of how mine works with the prepay and the 4 hour and the 1 hour. And I took quotes off at this time, or consults, because I was too busy to have consults on there. I think that's it, Harry. We're at the SolarWinds. And if you want me to, I'll finish mine up, how people can get a hold of me and stuff, or do you want to do the SolarWinds?
Lisa, let me pull up the SolarWinds, okay. And then we've got a handful of questions, and we will go from there.
Sweet.
Hello everyone, welcome to our first release video for N-Central, filmed right here in Ottawa in front of our beloved Parliament buildings. You should come visit sometime, but not in the winter, it's really too cold here. I'm Omar Cahill, Product Marketing Manager for N-Central, and with me is Chris Reed, Product Manager for N-Central. And we're here to tell you about how you can see more, know more, and do more with both N-Central 11.2 and 12.0. Let's start with how you can see more. Take it away, Chris.
Thanks, Omar. How many times have you had one of your end users call you and say, I can't access Office 365, or when I go to this website, it seems really slow? NetPath is a great way to understand where that problem may be occurring. Is it, for example, a problem with the local LAN that the customer's in, or is it a problem with a hop or a node somewhere along the way out in the public infrastructure? NetPath lets you understand where the problem may lie, and even better, if it's a public node, tells you who owns it and how to contact them. NetPath lets you map from any source server or workstation that you manage by showing you the path it would take to reach any destination IP address or hostname. The primary use case here is to map your customer's connectivity to popular cloud applications such as Office 365, G Suite, Amazon Web Services, or any networked application that's part of their business. NetPath reveals each hop, node, and link it would take for you to reach the destination, making it easy to troubleshoot hotspots or bottlenecks throughout the whole path. Not only can you see within your own network, but the ISP and cloud provider's infrastructure will be displayed to you within the NetPath window. When a problem does occur, NetPath gives you the contact email address and phone number for wherever the problem is occurring, so that you can more easily reach out to whoever owns that infrastructure and help them troubleshoot the problem. I can keep going, but check it out for yourself in the N-Central UI under the View NetPath menu. Click to add a path by selecting a server or workstation, typing in a destination, and within a few minutes, you'll have a path monitored within N-Central. The data is stored historically for 30 days, so you can even go back in time to troubleshoot any issues. Get started now by upgrading your N-Central server to version 12.0. Once the upgrade is complete, you'll have 5 free paths to use for 30 days. Give it a try today. We left some common URLs in the description below.
All right, are you back, Lisa?
I'm back. I'm at the end of my presentation here. I was just going to mention a few things for the folks that are still on there.
Perfect. While you're doing that, I'm going to leave up, we've got a poll question up, so if everybody could take the opportunity and answer that as soon as we get a few more votes in, I will turn that off and we'll go back to Lisa's slides. But Lisa, if you want to touch base on a couple more things, we can go back to your slides, and then I do have some questions, but I'm going to leave this poll up for just a little bit longer, but go ahead and chat a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just tell folks what I've been up to lately. I've decided to, I'm part of this, well, I'm reading The Pumpkin Plan, if anybody has heard of it. It's a book written by a fellow who ran I'm assuming an MSP, I think he believe he said. But anyway, I'm putting myself through Pumpkin Plan school right now. And one thing I learned is I need to slim down my patches. So I'm actually right now offering all of my products I've ever sold for free, my ebooks, my training videos, I've got a ton of them out there. I have an Office 365 security PowerPoint that's pretty cool that you can take and brand yourself and, distribute to your clients, or you can, use them in team meetings or your presentations. That, to me, was so important to get out to people's hands. So I said, I'm giving it all away for free. So you can go to my callthatgirl.com website, and there's a link at the top that says everything's free. Go click there, and you can check out all my stuff. It's all there. And I also have an Outlook quiz. If you look at my blogs up there, the top blog, I think one of them says, take my free Outlook quiz. I'm working with this guy, Brad, on creating a curriculum and a training for Outlook, because no one in the world that we've found has done it, and I've already got the content, the videos. So the quiz is actually pretty cool. So if you actually want to go take it yourself and then have your technicians or your staff do it, then you can kind of get an idea of how much they really know Outlook. There's a lot of sneaky questions in there. So the quiz is cool, and you can find out your skill level. And then I'm also available to help MSPs and break-fix techs. I've got two ways I help. One is I offer a prepaid ticket. You can hire me to jump in and help your technicians help a client, or I can do by the hour. If you want to do a test hour, I have one available right now for $79. It's only for technicians, and it's only one time, but it gives you an hour to test using my services. You can use it in 15-minute increments, and it's just probably for the summer I'll run that deal. Also, you can join my Office 365 Facebook group. It's got about, 1,200 technicians that are all pretty vetted. They're all experienced, and there's really no fluff in there. It's just literally tech questions. I try to keep out the spam except for mine, and I try to spam not so much. But it's a real good group. We're focused on Office 365, and people Facebook chat me and say, hey, can you help? I say, go to the group, and then everybody can learn from it. That's kind of it, Jenny. That's my end pitch there. The callthatgirl.com is the site to go to where everything is. I got lots of content out there.
Perfect. We have a couple questions for you, Lisa. First one is,
okay.
So what is Lisa's answer to what if you don't fix it? And I think that was from a while back.
Right. Well, typically, I don't go into hours of things I'm not fixing it anymore. For me, there's a fix. With Outlook, there is a fix. Okay, it's either an upgrade or a solution or something else. So typically, I'll find out if something's not working, and I have to tell the client, here's our solutions. And then I have to fix it. It's email. I don't know what you guys are doing for other repairs, but I'm sure if you get like a bad video card you're working on, you have to figure it out. So you just have to keep doing it. I know the expectations my clients have is they don't want to pay 4 hours to upgrade Outlook. So sometimes I have to say to them, this isn't typical, and I have to have Microsoft help to make it affordable, because Microsoft is the one who broke it. Not all the time, but sometimes that's my answer. Everything does get fixed, though, with email eventually. It just might not be quick. And I have had people pay me 4 hours of work before. But as long as you set the expectations, they understand.
Perfect. Next question. Do you charge an upcharge for using a credit card, or just eat the credit card company's charge?
Yeah, I only take credit card, and I take all credit cards. I even pay more for Amex. My best clients usually pay with Amex. They love it. I don't want to say my best clients. I'll take that back. The fastest paying ones are the Amex people. They want, they just want it done and get it fixed. So I pay a few $1,000s a year in fees, and I just write it off as part of the business. I only take checks from like 2 clients that I trust to do ACH, whereas I don't do checks at all.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. We've kind of cleared the deck. We'll stay on for another minute or so and see if any more questions roll in. We'd love to get all of your questions answered by Lisa. In the meantime, I do want to thank Intermedia, SolarWinds, and Synex again. Thank you guys so much. Without your participation, it really makes us be able to do these MSP Tech Talks and bring on these wonderful speakers like Lisa. So thank you to Intermedia, SolarWinds, and Synex again, and everybody for participating in this week's MSP Tech Talk. We're super excited. We have another one coming up in 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll see everybody on that one as well. And there's still time to register. So if you have coworkers or friends or people who haven't registered, please feel free to send them the link and have them get registered up, and they can even review the past couple events that we've had as well. So thank you, everybody. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So thanks again so much, Lisa. And I'll let you close it out if you have anything else to say.
No, I think I covered it all. Thank you for being one of the first people for my Outlook or Office 365 webinar. It was interesting.
Perfect. Thanks again, Lisa, and we will hopefully see you again soon.
Okay, see you guys around.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye-bye.